slip or it's not going to hold up as well as rubber. Sole savers, that's a great option, again, for those people like me that love leather but that want to have a little more grip, a little bit more protection than maybe what the leather gives. The second place to look is, again, the toe area. Now, the toe area wears down very quickly. And another thing you can do to prevent the toe area from wearing down are these things here, which are little toe guards. Now you have another thing you can do to prevent the toe area from wearing down are these things here, which are little toe guards. Now you have metal ones like this, and you have hard rubber ones like this. Now, the hard rubber ones, when you put those on, they go on easier because, like this one here is self-adhesive. You just simply peel off the backing of it, and you would simply pull off the adhesive, stick it on, and you take a few little tacks and you tack self-adhesive. You just simply peel off the backing of it, and you would simply pull off the adhesive, stick it on, and you take a few little tacks and you tack it in, and it's on there. Now, the advantage to having the hard plastic over, say, the metal ones is the hard plastic ones come off much easier. So when you wear through the hard plastic, you can bring it back to your cobbler. He can simply just take some pliers and he pulls this whole thing off. No harm, no foul, didn't do anything to your shoe, and you can just simply replace these again. Now, they do wear down faster than, say, the metal ones here. But the metal ones, they do last longer, but the only thing about the metal ones is the cobbler will oftentimes have to cut this leather portion away here, put the metal toe tap on there, and then put screws down in there to really help hold this on. So these will last a lot longer than the hard plastic ones, but these, once these come off, that leather has been cut away on the toe. But again, either of them, it's personal preference. There's some people that come into our shop, they want the metal, other people want the hard plastic. Again, those are just two options you have to prevent the toe area from your leather shoes wearing down fastest. And the last area, again, is the heel pad or the top lift area. Now, this is going to be the fastest part of your shoe to wear down. And the reason is because this is basically like the tire of your car. When you're walking all day, you're putting a lot of pressure on that heel pad or that top lift when you walk, and then you push off. And again, the toe area and the heel wear down very quickly because of that. Again, you're pushing, or you're landing here and you're pushing off here. These top lifts aren't very much to replace. On average, they can range between $20 and $35, just depending on where you're at in the country. So it's not expensive to replace, but it's one of those things that, a lot of guys are like, hey man, I don't want to keep paying $30 as fast as these things can wear down. So again, what you can do, these same little toe pieces, or these little hard plastic pieces that you can put up on the toe area, can also be put down here on the top lift. So you'd go right down there like that, stick on, again, you put the tacks in there, and it's now held on really well, and when you're walking now, you're wearing this down as opposed to the top lift here. So again, those are just three things that come to mind when customers come in and ask us
to this, but I'm just going to outline like a real basic, typical type of a process. When we get the hide off the animal, we need to get off the flesh and fat and other extra tissue that isn't leather. We'll do that again and go over the flesh side numerous times, but you go for a first fleshing that's going to get the bulk of it off. If the hair is going to be removed, it's usually soaked in lime or wood ashes, which are alkali, caustic alkali. They loosen the hair and allow us to push it out. So then we actually push the hair out, and then we need to rinse out all that alkali from the skin. The alkali will make the hide all plumped up and rubbery and thick, and that involves tanning material, chop it, grind it, whatever we need to do to get out the tannin, and then either soak it or cook it in water to make a solution and tan the hide in that. We can also layer the skin with layers of ground tanning material and skin, and then cover that with water or bark tanning solution. But that also doesn't require any real specialized tools. Once the skin is penetrated all the way through with the tan, or tanned as much as we want it to be, then we take it out, scrape over the flesh side, clean it up, scrub it, wash out the extra tan, and then it's time to finish. Finishing the leather can be relatively simple or fairly complicated depending on what you're trying to do and what kind of leather you're making, what kind of skin you have in the first place. This, for instance, is just oiled and then smoothed out and dried flat, and it's pretty hard. It's good for sheaths and stuff like that. Sometimes you want the skin to be even denser and harder than that, and so you can actually compress it. Or you might want the skin to be really floppy, in which case you're going to oil it differently, you're going to use different oils, and you're going to work it differently. Or you might want it in between, like this, which has kind of got quite a bit of body and it's not really stretchy or that pliable, but it's much more pliable than that. And of course, once your nice leather is all finished, you're going to want to use it, but that's an entirely different trade, different set of tools and all that. So let's get started. If you're going to skin animals yourself, all you really need is a sharp knife. Helps to have a rope too. Watch my video on skinning animals cleanly to how to get them off without cutting them up. You also may need to store the skins. I have a video on salting skins and just talking about the options: drying, freezing, and salting. In tanning, the most indispensable frequently used tools are the duo of the tanning beam and the tanner's knife, also known as a flushing knife usually. These come in a wide variety of shapes and sizes. You can get away with a lot of different things if you're just kind of a casual home tanner. There's also a lot of new stuff on the market, and I'll show you one in a second. I would say that my recommendation is around 20 inches long with a 10 to 12 inch blade, maybe up to 22 inches or something like that. You can make them at home. Watch my video, Flushing Knives 101, for the full lowdown on that. Here's some examples. This is made from an old planer blade with some rubber tubing for handles. This is an old school European style knife. That's really cool. This is one that I forged with antler handles, which I like a lot. This tool is a Weeb 12-inch flusher. I just got this in the mail and I haven't used it yet, but just looking at it, it looks great for an under $30 knife. Who knows if it'll hold an edge or not, but even if it doesn't, I could use this, as long as it doesn't break, I could use this for tanning everything I do for the rest of my life and get away with it. Would it be ideal? Not necessarily, but it would be quite good actually. And so I'm going to go out on a limb and recommend this for an affordable option. It's stainless, looks real nice, but a little tentatively because I haven't actually used it yet. Most beams are wood. I prefer to use wood. I would try to stick with something 8 inches in diameter or larger because of the radius of the curve. You can change that though. If you have to use a small log, you could flatten off the radius with an axe and a draw knife to get something that's more equivalent to, in curve, to a larger log, basically. But try to stick with 8 inches and up. Maybe the most important thing is you want a relatively clean, smooth surface. This one's kind of cracked and messed up because it's been out in the weather for years. It's definitely overdue for being replaced. But you want everything from about 3 inches down to at least 20 inches down, like a 20-inch space, maybe 24 inches. It's nice and clean. That means no huge cracks, no big knots, no giant gouges and tears and stuff like that. If you have a round log, as long as the grain is straight, and if I was selecting a tree, I would select a straight grain tree just for this purpose. I would split it in half down the middle and then maybe hollow out the underside too. Watch my video on splitting billets for kind of tips and tricks on that. The reason is that's going to reduce the incidence of cracking, but also the severity of cracking. The thicker a piece of wood is, and especially a round log with the center that's still in, like the center of the bullseye and the rings, the more likely it is to crack and the larger the cracks will be. So if we can take that log, split it in half, hollow out the underside a little bit, and make it more like a slab that's more of an even thickness, that will reduce both the severity and incidence of cracking. A great place to get almost a ready-made beam is to go to a lumber mill or talk to someone that does custom milling, because one of the first things I often do is slab off these slabs off the side of round logs, and then they start milling out the lumber. Those guys rarely have any use for these things. I just cut them up for firewood usually, so I'll probably give you a couple of them for free. Go to a local lumber mill, look at the phone book for custom milling, or go to your local chainsaw shop and ask those guys who does that. As far as what kind of wood to use, you can get away with a lot. Don't worry about it too much. My preference is maple here, big leaf maple on the west coast. I'm sure other maples are good. A lot of people use cottonwood. Willow's good, but you just kind of use what you have. I think this one's fir, or unless it's redwood, sapwood, but either way it worked fine. Don't worry about that too much. Lengthwise, you're looking at 5.5 to 6.5 feet. I would go with 6 to 6.5 feet. This is 6 foot 4 inches, and I really like this one. Another option is plastic. This is actually ABS, which is pretty thin-walled. PVC would be even better. I would go with at least 8 inches if you can afford it. 10 inches would be better. For legs, this just has 2-inch holes drilled in it and sticks just stuck in there. That works fine. You can do the same thing with a wooden beam. This wooden beam has 2x3s that are lagged in on edge with just enough space to slip in a piece of plywood for a stand. And it's kind of floppy. But honestly, every beam I've ever set up has been this kind of floppy, messy thing, and you just find a way to make it work. You know, put rocks on the end, stick it under a stump, put stakes around the legs or whatever, and it always seems to work out. There's a couple tools you might need for maintaining your beam. You need to put the beam in good condition and smooth it off in the first place, and then if it gets damaged, you need to fix it. Those are the draw knife and spoke shave. If I was going to pick just one of these, I would pick the draw knife. It's a little bit more versatile. It'll do all the heavy work that you need to do, and then you can still use it to smooth the surface pretty much. And if you need it smoother than that, you can use scraping, sandpaper, etc. This is just a great tool to have around anyway. They're really not that expensive on eBay. I think you could probably still get a high quality used one for 20-25 bucks because there's just so many of them out there. The spoke shave is more of a refining tool and something you'd use to kind of clean the beam up here and there. If you're going to buy a spoke shave, get one with some kind of an adjustment for the depth of cut. Like this is a Stanley number 53, which has kind of a unique mechanism with this little screw that moves the jaw, and a lot of them will have just 2 screws up here that you turn and adjust the blade in and out. What I would not recommend is getting the type where there's just a screw right here that you loosen and then kind of have to adjust the blade manually and then try it and keep doing that and screwing around. It's just, there's no good excuse for buying one of those unless it's like super cheap. Rubber apron, elbow gloves, and rubber boots. I think out of these, the most essential to me would be the elbow gloves. I don't like using any kind of short gloves because you're going to stick your hand into some kind of solution they're going to fill with water.
Βούλομαι. Εις μάχη.
Λέγε έστω.
Έτοιμος. Βούλομαι. Λέγε έτοιμος. Λέγε πάνω. Εισβολή. Πρόσταγμα. Εισβολή. Πρόσταγμα. Χώρο. Λέγε. Ορθώς. Βούλομαι.
Πρόσεχε. Ναι. Βούλομαι. Βούλομαι. Λέγε πρόσταγμα. Εισβολή. Έτοιμη. Ναι. Θηρευτής.
Πρόσταγμα. Εις μάχη. Έτοιμος. Εισβολή. Πάνω. Χώρο. Έτοιμος. Πάνω. Πρόσταγμα. Καλός. Εις μάχη. Λέγε.
Πρόσταγμα.
Έτοιμος. Βούλομαι. Πρόσταγμα. Καλός. Ορθός.
Έτοιμος, ναι. Ναι. Έτοιμος, βούλος. Πρόσταγμα. Ναι. Μάλιστα, ναι. Έστω, βούλομαι, μάλιστα.
Έτοιμος. Εις μάχη. Πάνω. Πρόσταγμα. Λέγε. Πάνω. Έτοιμος. Βούλομαι. Λέγε. Εις μάχη. Βούλωθος. Βούλομαι. Βούλομαι. Πρόσταγμα. Όρο. Πρόσταγμα. Εις μάχη. Πρόσταγμα. Όρο. Πάνω. Ορθός. Έτοιμος. Λέγε. Εισβολή. Λέγε. Εισβολή.
Έτοιμη. Βούλομαι. Ναι.
Έτοιμος, έστω, μάλιστα.
Πρόσεχε. Πρόσταγμα. Βούλομαι. Μεταλλεύς. Πρόσεχε.
Λέγε, λέγε, πρόσταγμα, λέγε, ορθός. Εισβολή, εισβολή.
Λέγε.
Πρόσταγμα. Ναι. Βούλομαι. Ναι. Έτοιμη. Έστω. Πρόσεχε. Λέγε. Ναι. Μάλιστα.
Έτοιμος, μεταλλεύς.
Πρόσταγμα. Μάλιστα. Μάλιστα.
Πρόσταγμα, πρόσταγμα. Λέγε, μάλιστα. Ναι.
Έτοιμος. Έστω. Ναι, έστω. Βούλομαι. Φρυτώνος.
Πρόσεχε. Πρόσταγμα.
Ναι. Λέγε.
Πρόσταγμα, όρο, πάνω. Πρόσταγμα, βούλομαι. Λέγε, ορθός.
Λέγε. Ναι.
Πρόσταγμα, λέγε,
Λέγε. Ναι.
Έτοιμος.
Πρόσταγμα. Ναι. Έτοιμη. Έστω. Βούλομαι. Ναι. Ναι. Βούλομαι.
βούλομαι. Εις μάχην. Ορθός. Καλός.
Λέγε. Βούλομαι. Λέγε. Έστω. Προσεχέ. Λέγε. Μάλιστα.
Πρόσεχε, ναι. Έστω. Λέγε. Έστω. Μάλιστα.
Πρόσταγμα. Πρόσταγμα. Λέγε. Πρόσεχε.
Λέγε. Ετοίμος. Πρόσταγμα. Έτοιμος. Μάλιστα. Βούλομαι. Βούλομαι. Πρόσεχε. Έστω. Πρόσεχε. Λέγε. Πρόσταγμα. Ετοίμος. Πρόσταγμα.
Λέγε. Ορθός. Βούλομαι. Πρόσταγμα. Θηριωθείς.
Βούλομαι.
Ετοίμος. Λέγε. Εισβολή.
Πρόσταγμα. Βούλομαι. Ναι.
Λέγε. Λέγε. Βούλομαι. Πάνω. Πρόσταγμα. Βούλομαι. Πάνω. Βούλομαι. Πάνω.
Πρόσταγμα. Έστω. Βούλομαι. Με καλές.
Έτοιμος.
Έτοιμος.
Πρόσταγμα. Έστω. Έστω. Ναι. Λέγε. Πρόσταγμα.
Πρόσταγμα.
Έτοιμος. Ναι. Έστω. Έστω.
Πρόσεχε. Μάλιστα. Έστω.
Πρόσεχε.
Πρόσταγμα. Ορθός. Πρόσταγμα. Έτοιμος.
Έτοιμος.
Έτοιμος. Ορθός. Όρο. Όρο.
Λέγε. Καλός.
Έτοιμος. Πάνι. Ισμάχιν. Εισβολή. Εισβολή. Λέγε. Όρο.
Λέγε. Ναι. Έτοιμος. Βούλαμε.
Λέγε. Έτοιμος.
Έτοιμη. Ναι. Πρόσεχε, βουφορβός. Πρόσταγμα. Μάλιστα. Έστω. Έτοιμη. Ναι. Λέγε. Μάλιστα.
Λέγε. Ναι. Πρόσταγμα. Θρητόμος. Μεταλλεύς. Πρόσεχε. Έστω.
Έτοιμη. Βούλομαι. Έστω. Βουφορβός. Πρόσεχε.
Ορθός.
Πρόσταγμα.
Πρόσταγμα. Πάνι.
Λέγε. Πρόσταγμα.
Πρόσταγμα.
Πρόσεχε.
Λέγε.
Πρόσταγμα. Λέγε.
Λέγε. Ισμάχιν.
Λέγε. Βούλομαι. Μεταλλεύς.
Πρόσεχε. Έστω.
Έτοιμος.
Λέγε. Μάλιστα. Πρόσεχε. Έστω.
Πρόσταγμα. Θρητόμος. Μάλιστα. Πρόσεχε, ναι. Μεταλλέ, θρητόμος, ναι. Θρητόμος.
Λέγε. Βούλομαι.
Έστω. Θρητόμος. Έτοιμος.
Έτοιμη. Πρόσεχε. Μάλιστα. Ναι.
Βούλομαι. Μάλιστα. Έστω. Πρόσταγμα. Έτοιμος.
Λέγε σταγμά. Λέγε
Έτοιμος. Βούλομαι.
Έτοιμη. Πρόσταγμα. Βούλομαι. Ναι.
Πρόσεχε, θρητόμος. Πρόσεχε, θρητόμος.
Λέγε. Βούλομαι. Μάλιστα. Ναι.
Έτοιμος. Πρόσεχε,
Βούλομαι.
πρόσταγμα. Μάλιστα. Λέγε, έστω.
Λέγε. Ρητό.
Πρόσταγμα. Θρητόμος.
Πρόσταγμα. Έστω. Λέγε. Μάλιστα. Έτοιμος.
πάνω.
Λέγε. Έστω. Έτοιμος. Έστω. Μάλιστα.
Έτοιμος. Πάνω.
Έστω.
Πρόσταγμα.
Πάνω. Ορθός. Έτοιμος.
Έστω. Μάλιστα.
Πρόσταγμα. Πάνω. Πάνω. Εισβολή.
Έτοιμη. Πρόσταγμα. Έστω.
Μάλιστα. Μάλιστα.
Λέγε έτοιμος. Λέγε. Έτοιμος. Λέγε.
Πρόσταγμα.
Πρόσταγμα. Έστω.
Πρόσταγμα. Βούλο. Πρόσταγμα. Πρόσεχε, μάλιστα. Μάλιστα.
Έτοιμη.
Πρόσταγμα. Έτοιμος. Πάνω. Βούλομαι.
Έτοιμος. Μάλιστα. Έτοιμος. Πρόσταγμα. Μάλιστα. Έστω. Ναι. Έτοιμος. Έστω.
Πρόσταγμα. Πρόσεχε. Έστω. Έτοιμο.
Πρόσταγμα. Ισμάκι.
Πρόσταγμα. Εισβολή. Έτοιμο. Έτοιμος. Καλώς. Εισβολή.
Λέγε. Έτοιμος. Ορθός.
Λέγε. Βούλομαι.
Λέγε. Μάλιστα. Λέγε. Έστω. Βούλομαι. Ναι. Μάλιστα. Έστω. Μάλιστα. Βούλομαι. Μάλιστα. Ναι. Έστω. Βούλομαι. Μάλιστα. Ναι. Μάλιστα. Βούλομαι. Ναι. Μάλιστα. Έστω. Μάλιστα. Μάλιστα. Έτοιμη, έτοιμη, έστω. Ναι, λέγε. Λέγε, μεταλλεύς. Έτοιμη, μεταλλεύς.
Πρόσεχε. Βούλομαι. Έτοιμος. Βούλομαι. Φρυτόμος.
Ορθός. Πάνω.
Ναι. Ναι. Πρόσεχε. Έστω.
Λέγε. Ορθός.
Λέγε.
Πρόσταγμα. Ορθός. Εισβολή.
Πρόσταγμα. Βούλομαι. Έτοιμος. Ορθός. Βούλομαι. Πρόσταγμα. Πρόσταγμα.
Πρόσεχε. Έστω. Έστω.
Λέγε. Ορθός. Βούλομαι. Εισβολή. Σμάκι. Καλός. Πρόσταγμα.
Ναι,
Μάλιστα. Έστω. Ναι. Λέγε. Έτοιμος. Πρόσεχε.
Πάνω.
Πρόσταγμα. Πρόσεχε. Λέγε.
Εισμάχιν. Μάλιστα.
βούλομαι. Ναι,
Βούλομαι.
Πρόσεχε.
Έτοιμος. Έτοιμος.
Πρόσταγμα.
Έτοιμος. Λέγε. Πρόσεχε.
Έστω. Πρόσεχε. Ναι. Ναι, ναι.
Πρόσταγμα. Εισμάχη. Έτοιμος. Εισβολή. Πρόσταγμα, πρόσταγμα. Λέγε.
Λέγε.
Πρόσταγμα. Λέγε. Ορθός. Πρόσταγμα. Λέγε. Πάνι. Έτοιμος. Όρο. Καλός. 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 Πρόσεχε. Λέγε. Εισβολή. Εισμάχη. Όρο. Όρο. Πρόσταγμα. Έστω. Έτοιμος. Βούλο.
Πρόσταγμα. Έστω. Μάλιστα, μάλιστα, μάλιστα.
Έστω.
Λέγε. Έτοιμος. Πρόσταγμα. Λέγε. Ορθός. Πάνι. Καλός. Ορθός. Χώρο. Πρόσταγμα.
Πρόσεχε. Ναι.
Πρόσεχε.
Πρόσεχε.
Πρόσταγμα. Εισβολή. Βούλωμα. Εισβολή. Χώρο. Ορθός. Ορθός.
Πρόσταγμα.
Πρόσταγμα. Λέγε. Πρόσταγμα. Έτοιμος. Πρόσταγμα.
Λέγε. Πρόσεχε.
Πρόσταγμα. Πρόσταγμα.
Λέγε. Έτοιμος.